Hi, I'm Brianna Kay, and today we're going to be talking about a collection of patterns called the airport scarves. These are really fun, simple to work up, and explores a few different stitches and yarns. So let's get started. So in this awesome collection, we have a total of 5 scarves that you can make. Now, some of them use yarn that might be a little bit hard to find, but don't be afraid of substitutions. Sometimes as new yarns come out, old yarns will get discontinued, and there's a couple of that on here, but not to fret. It's very easy to go over to the Annie's website, look up the size of yarn that you are seeking, and look at the options. And another great thing to do is gauge swatches. As you get started, just so the sizing is the same when you're substituting yarns, you really want to make sure you work up that gauge swatch. So in this airport collection of scarves, I want to start with the second one, which is the California Dreamer. It uses a medium weight yarn, and for this one I'm actually going to substitute the jeans colors. I find this works out closer to a DK weight than a worsted weight, and I can meet the gauge for this one, and so it's an appropriate yarn for me to use today. In the California Dreamer scarf, for row 1 we will chain 34. Place a slip knot onto your G-hook because that's the size we will be using today, and go ahead and chain 34. So after chaining 34, we will double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, and this is the stitch we will double crochet into. And now we will double crochet into each of the next 3 chains. So here goes 1 double crochet, 2, and 3. And then the next steps are to skip stitches. So we will skip the next 3 chains. So 1, 2, 3, skip those and double crochet into the next 3. So now our next step is to do a 3 double crochet into the next chain. So we will do 3 double crochets into 1 chain stitch. So 1, 2, and 3, all worked within that 1 chain stitch. Now whenever you see brackets and then you see the word twice or 3 times, you repeat what you just did inside those brackets. So now we're going to go back and we're going to work everything inside those brackets again. We will double crochet into the next 3 chains. We're going to skip the next 3 chains and double crochet into the next 3 chains. And now we will place 3 double crochet stitches into the very next chain. Now we will double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Skip the next 3 stitches and double crochet in each of the next 3 chains. Now you should have one chain stitch remaining, and we will place 2 double crochets into that, and then we're going to turn our work. So not too bad, we've already got row 1 done. Now for row 2, we will turn our work and we will chain 3. We will double crochet into the next double crochet. Then we will double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochet. And here's where we will skip the next 2 double crochet stitches and double crochet into each of the next 3. So skip 2 and then double crochet the next 3. Then we will 3 double crochet into the next double crochet. And now here's where we are going to repeat those bracket parts again. By double crocheting in each of the next 3 double crochets. Then we will skip the next 2 double crochets and double crochet in each of the next 3. And here is where we will do our 3 double crochets into the next 1 stitch. And then we will 3 double crochet into the next double crochet stitches. So work the next 3 stitches as double crochets. And now we will skip the next 2 double crochet stitches, and we will double crochet into each of the next 3. And for that very last stitch of the row, we will place 2 double crochets. Now I want to note here that that very last stitch will be worked into the top of the chain 3 from the row below. I know the pattern doesn't indicate this, but in order for it to work out, those chain 3s do count as a double crochet stitch. And we also don't have a stitch count for the rows, but if you just simply follow those instructions and count that chain 3, it does work out. Now for rows 3 through 96, you're simply going to be repeating row 2. And if you notice on the 2 rows I already have, we have this really nice wave happening. It's super fun. I always love like a chevron style. And this one's really fun because of skipping stitches. We've created some eyelets, which really adds almost like a lacy chevron. I really like that. This is a fun, relaxing stitch pattern to continue to do. And if you wanted to make this longer or shorter, simply keep working row 2 or stop sooner than 96 rows. And then for row 97, you will work your edging. Now the other pattern I wanted to try today, because it has a V-stitch, and I love those, is the romantic hippie. So let's get started by chaining 24. So now the V-stitch is listed in the special stitches for this pattern, and the V-stitch is simply doing a double crochet, chain one, double crochet. And by doing that, it creates the V shape. So in our fifth chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will create a V-stitch. So we will double crochet, chain one, and double crochet into that same stitch. Next, we will skip the next 2 chains and we will V-stitch in the next. Now we will repeat that 6 times. So we skip the next 2 chains and we V-stitch in the next chain. And at the end of the row, you will simply do a double crochet in the last stitch. Now to double check that we have the right count of V-stitch, which is what really matters here, we want a total of 7 V-stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Just make sure you have a total of 7 V-stitches on that first row. For row 2, we will turn and chain 3. Now this chain 3 is indicated that this is our first stitch of the row. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Now in this very first chain 1 space of our V-stitch, we are going to place a shell stitch. And to do a shell stitch, we are going to do 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, all in this space. So let's get started. In that chain 1 space, the V-stitch, we will place 2 double crochets. So 1, 2, chain 1, and then still working in that same space, we will double crochet 2 more stitches. And that completes the shell stitch. Now we will chain 1, skip the next V-stitch, and shell stitch into that next V-stitch. So we're skipping 1 V-stitch and then we're going to do a shell stitch into the next V-stitch. We will do that 3 times. So now at the end of row 2, you will have a total of 4 shell stitches. So just make sure that at the end of row 2, you have a total of 4 shell stitches. And now we will continue on to row 3. Turn your work and chain 3. Now we're going to place a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the shell stitch. So that's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now we will do a V-stitch in the next chain 1 space. And we're going to keep repeating that across. So our next V-stitch will be in the chain space of the shell stitch. And then the next one will be in the next chain 1 space, which happens to be in between the shell stitches. We'll just keep continuing this across. This is quite a relaxing stitch pattern, and it's a simple instruction, but it creates a beautiful result. And as we get to the end of the row, we want to double crochet in the last, which is that chain 3 from the row before. So go ahead and place a double crochet into that last stitch. And that completes row 3. Now for our repeats for rows 4 through 179, we will simply be repeating rows 2 and 3. So it is definitely romantic hippie. So repeat rows 2 through 3. And if you find that you like a shorter or longer scarf, feel free to do more rows, repeating rows 2 and 3 alternatively, or do less. It's totally up to you. This is really a fun pattern. I encourage you to work this up. And there's even more patterns in here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you really enjoy these fun, fast projects. They're really great to wear around during the winter or the spring because there's a variety of them. So head on over to Annie's and get started, and join me next time.